Good morning, Backyard Kids. October is going great so far as we learn all about individuality. In other words, we're learning about who God means for us to be so that we can make a difference. Today we're going to hear about a man named Matthew. Around the time that Jesus was beginning his ministry, Matthew worked as a tax collector. But it wasn't just his job, because being a tax collector pretty much impacted everything in your life. Because during that time, tax collectors basically had free rein to cheat the people that they collected money from so that they could make more money for themselves. Because of this, most of them became pretty rich, while the people that they were taking taxes from struggled to get by. So as you might guess, tax collectors were not very well liked. And the same was true for Matthew. While we don't really know if he actually cheated the people he collected from or not, it was pretty hard to overcome the bad rap that most tax collectors had. So as you might guess, most of these guys, including Matthew, like I said, were not very well liked. But one day, everything changed for Matthew. He was at his tax collector's booth, just hanging out, waiting for people to come and pay their taxes that he owed, when Jesus came to town. Surely Matthew had already heard about Jesus. Pretty much everyone had. They were talking about him, about how he taught and the radical things that he said and did and how he had healed people. Probably Matthew was just as curious as everyone else was, but he probably didn't think that he would ever get a chance to actually meet or talk to Jesus, because he thought that a good man like Jesus would never want to speak to someone like him. But then something incredible happened. As Jesus started through town with his disciples, he stopped right at Matthew's booth. And then he looked in at Matthew and he said, "Follow me." So what do you think Matthew did? Well, he got up and he followed Jesus. Looking back, this may have seemed like a pretty easy choice, but I doubt that it actually was. Matthew probably didn't think that he was good enough to be one of Jesus' followers or to be friends with him. After all, he was a tax collector. He wasn't considered a good person. But Jesus saw something in Matthew that he didn't see in himself. Jesus knew that Matthew was created and loved by God, and therefore he was valuable and important. This changed Matthew so much that he even got the courage to invite Jesus and his friends to come have dinner at his house. What was even more amazing than he got up the courage to invite them was that they actually came. So there sat Jesus and all his friends, along with some of Matthew's tax collector friends and even some other people who were outcasts in the town. Can you imagine how Matthew must have felt looking around this table at all these wildly different people, amazed that he had been chosen to follow Jesus? Matthew was overjoyed about the way that Jesus saw him. Jesus treated him like he was valuable and important, and now Matthew had a new start, a chance to live his life differently. But not everyone was happy about this turn of events. Do you remember hearing about the Pharisees, those religious leaders that thought they were better than everyone else? Well, they were horrified. They asked the disciples why on earth their teacher was willing to take a meal with people like tax collectors and sinners. But Jesus overheard what they were saying, and he had an answer for them. Jesus reminded them that healthy people don't need doctors. Sick people do. And Jesus reminded the Pharisees that he had not come to bring those who were perfect to God, but to get sinners to follow him. Jesus knew that the Pharisees didn't think they needed God, but Jesus focused on people like Matthew, who knew that they needed his help. From then on, Matthew followed Jesus everywhere. He saw more of what Jesus did than just about anyone else. And later in his life, Matthew wrote everything he saw down so that all the stories of what he had seen and heard could help other people to know Jesus too. See, what Matthew learned is our bottom line for today. Knowing Jesus changes how you feel about yourself, how you see yourself. It was true for Matthew, and it's true for us too. So take some time in prayer this week to thank God for that.